Hello.
I hope you can see me and hear me clear.
Sure can.
Great.
Awesome. Where are you calling in from?
I'm here in the UK, in London.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, the weather here is not nice, but yeah, it's nice to be here.
Is
And
it
how about yourself?
rainy?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Lots of rain. Awesome. All right. Um, would love to hear a little bit more about what you're looking for here. I was able to read the Upwork listing. I know we're looking Gen AI assistance app, but I always find it's helpful to kind of hear directly from you what you're looking for, and I can talk a little bit about Valere, and we can see where we meet up.
Sure, yeah. I think there was probably last weekend I had seen your listing. I put up mine quickly after I had a conversation with one of my solution architect friends.
Mhm.
And I learned in the process, I've learned about a few more technologies and bits and pieces how the solution can be put together. But yeah, with the same context of what I was looking for in terms of testing parameters and ease of testing, training models offline, etc. But in brief, this is like a Gen AI bot. Now I'm thinking it could be based on top of Copilot, Microsoft's Copilot. I
Mhm.
I need more. We need more brainstorming. So essentially, a web app, I mean, should be on a desktop because the users would be able to see, interact, and see reports and everything.
Sure.
So it's not really going to be just a mobile UI. That could be also as a nice extension so that you can use it on the go, talking to your assistant, literally like a
So
bot.
mobile
You talk.
responsive web app version one with a mobile application version two. Is
Yeah,
that what I'm hearing?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, 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 right. And primarily interacts with the user, obviously through all channels. Best would be you talk to them and say, hey, you know what? Can you go and find what are the top five distributors for this product in Florida?
Okay.
Maybe I'm trying to be specific with the use case. Uh, of course, you will ask me all the questions because you need to start imagining the
Sure.
solution, right?
So who is a user of this chatbot? What is the specific
Yeah,
function of the chatbot?
a sales development representative in a mid-sized company.
Okay. And then what is that company selling and how do they sell?
Let's
Outbound,
take this.
inbound.
Yeah, let's take this scenario of a fashion footwear uh, product, and they sell using outbound. Yeah, I mean, there are obviously two scenarios. It's a B2B, so we are selling to a distributor or we are selling to straight to the customer, right? B2B and B2C.
Mhm.
Now, the question here, I mean, I we're gonna have both down the line, but for the MVP, I need to figure out with discussions with the business and also with the development team, like yourself, what is the realistic possibility? Can we do both by customizing the models, or are we going to have to do just one, like only for B2C, let's say?
So that I can tailor my conversations a little bit better. Who are you in this process? Are you one of the business stakeholders? Are you a middleman? Are you where do you fall into this process?
Yes, I have the core concept developed. Like that's what I have imagined and put it on paper and started doing the documentation. And now I am having a co-founder who's a VP of sales in experience with global sales.
Hmm.
So he is the one who will be advising me on specific features and use cases. So he's the you say the let's call him the business representative. So I have the blend of both. I know the business also. I have done some sales work also. And of course, I have the tech background.
So you plan for this to be a SaaS product, is that correct? And you can
Yes, a
white label it.
multi-tenant. Yes, multi-tenant SaaS.
Okay. Um, so there's a couple of different things that we would need to scope out here. Do you foresee this tool being used with a physical sales representative, so it's aiding the sales representative, or do you believe that this tool would be used in lieu of a sales representative? It is taking those definitive actions on the behalf of the company.
Uh, it it's more of a strategic advisor and analyst aiding, assisting the SDR in house,
Okay.
like at his desk. Yeah, not on field or not expected to go out and get the leads, but no need, not going to go and do the cold calls or anything. It
So
might
internally
create.
facing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So really the biggest dependencies that we would look to do here is we would likely do a RAG framework. I don't know if you're familiar with RAG. Um,
Yes, I
we
am.
would we would likely do a RAG framework for this. The biggest dependency is how we are categorizing data and information pertinent to each specific company. So likely they're going to have sales dossiers and standard operating procedures that they want to follow. They're going to have categorizations of leads, warm leads, hot leads, different stages of their processes. How does all of that get mapped out by likely a sales manager and then reflected down to their sales team? And then how do we make sure that the sales team has the most accurate information to them and can then reflect information that is discussed either via email, via phone call? How does that information then get reflected into the sales specific to that context so that a deliverable out of sales can be delivered to that end user? Those are the big dependencies that I see with this project. I don't know if you can think of anything else.
Right. So classification of proprietary data, right?
Hmm.
To summarize what you said. And also, I mean, because there are four aspects to it or four top level features is new market, say, for example, new market entry analysis, lead generation, deal negotiation support, and maybe sales playbooks uh, or cookbooks or coaching,
New market analysis is separate to this because new market analysis will require information that we likely wouldn't have internal. We wouldn't have enough training data internal if it's a market that that company wouldn't have already been in, unless we're going to do data sharing where other companies on the platform can have their data anonymized and sold to other people to guide them strategically on how to enter new markets.
let's say we have a couple of early adopter clients, so we would have access to the proprietary data. But yeah, the other possibility doesn't exist that anybody else sharing the data for the prototype. I was imagining that we have either mock data or we just work with the web data, like from the archives, downloaded research paper, etc., so that we can present the accuracy or other parameters of usefulness of the product, and then eventually we either during the MVP itself, the client accepts us for beta or what do you call it, early adopters.
Hmm.
You would know how it works usually with
Sure.
startups that you have worked with.
Yeah, and we've definitely done plenty of chatbots, plenty of sales specific things. Did you have a timeline to an MVP in mind?
Yeah, uh, I mean, the start could be within less than a month, I think.
Mhm.
And I was estimating it could be 2 months of development work.
Yeah, depending on how robust of a tool, I think an MVP is fair to be within 2 months. A full version one, likely we would want to do some additional things on there. We would need to take payment. We would need to have more in-depth onboarding. We would have generative deliverables and pricing models and how all of those go in together. But an MVP, we can keep it very, very simple. We can deploy a RAG framework within a credentialed login and then have it be like that. We don't have to go too crazy with user access levels or anything like that. I don't want to overcomplicate the MVP. Are you and your partner, are you bootstrapping this? Do you have investment already? What stage of that are you in?
Yeah, for the concept phase itself, there is some bootstrapping needed because even for example for wireframing, which is not done yet, or in a short video clip, uh, but we are like planning to acquire some angel funding very soon.
Okay.
Already we are gearing up to present. So most critical hurdle in my way is creating that little video, which I mean, again, I have not worked with anyone on this yet. I am trying my own ways, like, using some AI tools to create like a, even I don't have the screens, right? So creating the screens and just showing a user journey. So when do you think, I mean, do you think that this is something can be done without, I mean, you would do the wireframing, right, as part of MVP?
So I can show you sort of our high level process. I'll show you this because I think it makes it a little bit easier to understand. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Sure. So this is our Valere Digital Solutions life cycle. So where we would start is what we call discovery. And that's exactly what you're talking about here is where we need to identify the customers, their needs, the business needs. We need to do user stories, define their requirements, feature versioning. So what's an MVP? What's a version one, version two? We'll then break that down into a prioritized features list where we go row by row and we say, all right, this text box is the email box. In order for an email to be valid, it needs to be this many characters, has to have an at sign, has to have a period. We do that for the entire application so that we're not leaving anything to assumptions. We're tying that to user stories, and then we tie all of those user stories into wireframes. That's the discovery. Coming out of the discovery, we then are able to do estimates based upon line by line and feature by feature what each thing will cost and also take in terms of time to develop. We'll then do the UI design. The UI design is typically about 3 weeks for an MVP. And coming out of that, we can put together what's known as a UI prototype. And the UI prototype is where it's not tied to any backend data, but you can click through the application to demo what it could feel like to use the application without it actually being tied into any real data. Is typically a good way to whet the appetite of some investment. Uh, Likely you won't be able to receive any physical money until you actually have an MVP built. Most investors that I'm aware of like to see that you've invested enough of your money to actually get a product uh, to life before they feel confident enough to invest their own money. It's a sense of faith. Um, but that's we then go into our build phase. We have a retainer model, we have a fixed model. Both models, you're put into a Slack workspace with your full team. You get daily project updates. You have a weekly status call where we demo the product, and then post-launch maintenance and support. Once the product is built to your standards and you just want us to stay involved, we will keep a team for 40 hours for security, ongoing patches, incremental updates. And should something happen, something breaks, you have a team 24/7 that can engage onto the project and get it back up. Questions on the process?
So UX design is 3 weeks process. Outcome is the clickable UI, and which
So
supported by
UX design is
mockup.
within Discovery. So you'll have the UX wireframes coming out of Discovery. UI design is about 3 weeks.
Right. So UX design, isn't it like wireframes?
UX design is wireframes.
And the UI design, the clickable lookalike of the end product is
Hmm.
supported by the mock data,
Correct.
probably.
We
So,
could
for
put
example, if we are integrating RAG, then whatever, let's say some script manuals and PDFs, they dummy data, and it's showing that data in this part itself with the
that wouldn't
because
be
the
in a
RAG is
clickable
not built.
prototype. That
Yeah,
would,
because
this
RAG is
is,
not built yet.
there's no code at all. It is purely just the designs, but we have made the designs clickable from design to design based on essentially hyperlinks. It's called prototyping. So if I click on a button, it'll go to the next design page. It'll look like front end code. It'll look like things are happening, but all the data there is just text boxes that we've entered in, and we've gone ahead and prototyped the tool.
Yeah, so it's only a simple prototype, of course, and it is not anywhere close to what high-end graphics you may want down the line.
Correct.
For example, if we were to integrate, somebody talking like a human figure, that won't be possible with this UI design phase.
Probably not within the UI design phase. Within the MVP, sure, but not within the
Actual
UI design.
MVP. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, process I think is clear.
Okay. And then what budget did you have in mind for the MVP?
Well, of course, I'm speaking to several, as you know, agencies and individuals, or different opinions and different based on the scope that they imagined or I explained. It differs. So, somebody's saying it's a fixed price contract or hourly. Your model, I understand, retainer or another way. But I think typically, if it is going to go on for 2 months, I spoke to an agency, and if they're just talking about one front end and one back end developer, I never asked them specifically back end means what. We will need a data scientist also, as well as a AI ML engineer, right?
Correct.
So that's actually two resources for the backend and front end. Let's say UI developer or somebody with React and other skills. So with that, I think our chat says that yours minimum is $20,000. I think that is, I know that given the experience you have with AI projects, that definitely will be the entry point. But maximum how much it can go, I can only decide once I know the final list of features. But given that these four top level areas, again, the most important question in my mind right now is to finalize the numbers. Is it possible to create these RAG and LLM model kind of framework, keeping in mind that we begin with retail B2B and B2C, but we may also incorporate other verticals like what do you call? How can I forget? Fintech down the line. So
Yes, because I think the way that we're going, there's two ways that we can go about it in terms of how we're doing the prompt engineering. We can either develop a middleware specific to each industry. So we can say, all right, I pre-select, I'm a fintech company, so I'm going to be hitting the augmentation for fintech, and it will devise my prompt specific to fintech. Or we can make it agnostic to industry. And then as we are uploading documentation as context, it will be able to pull that context out and it will be general sales regardless of industry.
because I mean, ultimately, when it comes to processing the information, whether it's proprietary or openly available for any sector, the methodology or the models and the classification, data classification, the process would be similar.
Sort of.
I
So
It's a vague.
there's an architecture and each component is modular. So we can decide how we want to put together the modularity. So the large language model at the end can always be just a large language model. We're prompting it at the end of the day. It doesn't have to retain any specific context specific to the large language model. That's just the last piece of it. But there's other components of a RAG framework before it hits that LLM. So there's middlewares, is what they're called. So likely the way that I see this is that each company uploads their relevant documentation into a siloed ecosystem specific to their company so that there's not proprietary data leakage. They are prompting the retrieval portion, the R, to go and find the relevant data specific to what their question is or whatever the question is that they're dealing with from the client. The augmentation portion is where we have a little bit of the flexibility, the A portion. We can either create new augmentation, which is where it's developing a custom prompt based upon the information it's retrieved, specific to each industry, and we're just having people pre-select the industry that they're in. Or we have it be general and we say, here's all of the best sales, best tactics. Sales is dynamic. It can be done pretty much similar concepts for any industry. And we're just applying the specific knowledge base within that sales to then generate a large language model output. Those are the two different ways that we can go about it. The R and the G, those are pretty much predefined. Those will stay the same regardless. The A is where we have that flexibility.
Okay, so with the augmentation, it could be generalized or it which is common practice because as I understand what you're saying is that sales is a generic uh, field and you don't have to go by vertical, but if needed we can do some customization.
If you
Like
wanted
the
to.
only other, yeah, the only concern points are like when I discussed with the SMEs is that what is it, that there are some compliance and regulatory things that may come in picture when
GDPR.
accessing that data. Yeah, so I don't know how it impacts that augmentation.
So GDPR can increase. It doesn't impact any of the architecture because we can host the architecture in Europe. We can make sure that all information that is in Europe is only accessible by Europeans of the GDPR agreement. Um, and then it's all about just making sure that we have the proper security in place and the proper compliance in place. That's more a dependency on us as a SaaS product than it is on individuals uploading documents. They can upload whatever they would like within their ecosystem because it's all proprietary to them. It's only going to reflect in their system. It's less of a concern that somebody can upload material and then it gets replicated to other users.
Got it. So basically, compliance and all these checks are because it's going to be it's an in-house product used by their own team. Let's say through cloud security, VPNs, and whatever. So these questions are not going to hinder the architecture. They will not come in. The architecture itself, I know that
Backend
cloud
architecture is
architectures.
compliant. Any access to the site once they are there is out of your control. You can't determine if somebody is utilizing the data correctly, but everything that is on your site is compliant because it's in your backend architecture. It's the entry points of within your control. It's a little
Got it.
difficult to explain, so I
No,
apologize.
I get it. I get it. So, so for example, you have the data, what you say retrieval is done into S3 buckets, if I'm talking about AWS.
Yep.
And then when you say middleware, is that your what lambdas, AWS lambdas, where you pull the for
Yeah,
augmentation?
yeah. Lambda is an example of that.
I mean, when you say middleware, it's a generic term, but any tool available because this project is now to be hosted in Azure. Whatever the web services they have available, we could use those for your middleware, right?
Correct.
Anything.
There's all the same tools. It's just how you connect all of the tools together. It's a modular application.
Okay, and then now talking about US, like if we have US clients, again, it remains the same compliance and regulation. So there is no, I mean, the fact is that the architecture is not going to be really impacted by any vertical specific constraints or any compliance and regulatory constraints. As simple as that, right?
The in a short answer, yes, correct. You should be okay with GDPR because everything is going to be hosted. We will make that consideration that everything is hosted in Europe if this is a European product, um, because that will be more compliant with GDPR. The big complications for things are if, for say, you have a company in the United States that is pulling information from European servers and then attempting to write back to European servers, which we wouldn't allow. We would make sure that this is a tool that's used by Europeans in within the EU, and then we could replicate data across those architectures to American databases for American clients.
Yeah, for I mean, the concern may arise only, for example, if there's a global MNC like Amazon or Walmart with locations, and then, but I think it's
We would
very
have
clear
IP
that it's all
addresses and we would be replicating across those data sources anyway, because that's just good practice, is you want to have multiple servers that are replicating to each other in case one of them goes down, you're not losing total uptime. It'll just automatically reflect over to a different server.
okay. I think it's pretty clear that this is not a major concern. I ruled out because it came in through a SME, so I just got it sorted. And the other, what was my biggest concern, I already mentioned, was the vertical. So we are saying that during the MVP itself, what we build can be used for two different clients. One client from retail B2B, another one for from another industry, right? Because we already discussed that sales being a generic, so the augmentation will be generic. So we should be able to start training the models for two different clients from two different verticals with the MVP, right?
My So I think later down the line, we will want to make specific middlewares and enhanced context for each industry. But I don't think we need that for the MVP. I think that sales is general enough that we can apply some very high level concepts and still provide extreme value, because the knowledge sources are really what is the most value here. So step 4 is where we can refine. That's the augmentation portion, is the prompt and the query together. But this knowledge source is proprietary to each individual, and then this large language model endpoint doesn't matter. It's always, this can be any large language model you would like. And then the search for relevant information, again, it's just searching into the knowledge source. So that's always going to stay the same. So really, this point 4 is the biggest impact that we will likely have to decide.
Okay, and this you're saying we can address down the line after the MVP, the
I would keep it
contextualization.
general for the MVP. And then once we start to get users, we can refine multiple of those middlewares specific to each industry.
Okay, and it won't really impact, the only impact on accuracy is the model training and the classification of data, is it?
Pretty
Nothing to do with
much.
this contextualization of yeah, I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's all putting together proper queries.
And so in your team, uh no, again, to go to the ceiling of the budget, so usually you work with, during discovery, probably you have a business analyst. Can you tell me more about, people involved in through the entire journey?
Sure. So we're a 200-person agency. So we have somebody within the company for every single scenario. So what we do within our discovery process is we have what's known as a discovery lead. Those are specially trained individuals who both understand business and product and can host things in relation to those considerations, but they're also they can talk the talk of developers and technolog technologists. So they're able to communicate requirements sort of like a translator. We also bring a technical project manager and a technical architect into those meetings for every step of that process. That is both so that they can understand the project early on and make suggestions for architecture and make sure that we're taking into account technical dependencies. But we've also noted that they're helpful for estimations, um, and just to provide additional continuity throughout the duration of the project because they'll be with it through every step of the way. Design team, we do have a full design team. We have designers in our Croatia office, our India offices. We have them in our Peru office, and then a couple based out of our United States office. Um, then into the build phase, we like to specialize our developers because we find that specializing makes them more efficient. So we have front end engineers, back end engineers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, DevOps, technical architects, as I said before, technical project managers. We also have a separate quality assurance team. We bring all products through 4 stages of quality assurance. Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers all of your questions, but we try to bring an army of resources that are specialized to every single project.
Okay, so I get it. So you have specialized, not one engineer wearing multiple hats, but they're dedicated CI/CD like DevOps, uh, React or front end. Got it.
Hmm.
Separate dedicated to people. And there is definitely, I would call him in simple terms, business analyst
Yeah,
uh,
discovery lead is
from the beginning.
business analyst. They sort of wear 2 hats where they're able to help you scope, but they're also able to understand the business requirements at large.
Yeah, or tech lead, whatever it is. So, all right. And 4 stage quality assurance. Yeah, most important is the quality of the data. And if you can, because I think I have less knowledge in this area. How exactly, what, like, are there any metrics? How do you define accuracy and, quality of data
This is the big
classification?
question, and that's something that we go through in discovery. Artificial intelligence, specifically generative artificial intelligence, is very subjective. It is subjective in the sense that who is to say a response is good or bad? It's your opinion. But what we attempt to do is define objective metrics for success prior to even starting to code, because that will be our guiding tool as we're going through the refinement portion. So, a example of an objective would be when asked a question in relation to sales pricing, the model provides an accurate payment solution 95% of the time. And we want to get it from 95 to 97% before we release it. And we'll continue to test based upon those metrics. I'm just making up scenarios and making up numbers. But that is something where we can say as a yes or a no, did we achieve this outcome? Is the response that we got accurate based upon the conversation? And is the pricing model that it created representative of what a sales representative would have created? Yes, no. And that's how we're able to assess the accuracy.
Okay, this is probably like, well, when you say yes or no in your Copilot or Gemini, and accordingly the model updates. Okay, and another important question was, I know that these days, recently I looked up, and Microsoft Copilot APIs, they're really integrating into all enterprise products, HubSpot and Enterprise 365 and everything. So would you, I know, I mean, what would be your choice? I know that it will cost to use this Microsoft Copilot APIs every month, probably subscription. But what would be? Is it more of a open source like Llama 2 or what is it? Is that what you would choose for this project?
So I would want to leave that choice up to a technical architect because they'll have the better information. My gut reaction is that your use case in terms of a large language model output is not niche enough that it would require a open source model that would require X amount of technical training. Those are typically, if we're doing things with financial analysis, medical analysis, that's where specially trained LLMs really can shine. I don't foresee too much of a dependency with utilizing an API model as long as we can ensure that it's a closed loop system because it'll be utilizing proprietary data. So likely we wouldn't be just utilizing an open out of the box version of OpenAI's ChatGPT or utilizing an Amazon or a Gemini or even a Copilot. We would utilize some sort of either an encrypted model or a closed loop solution so that there's no data leakage. But I want to leave that decision to an architect with the understanding that as we go through a discovery, we may learn new things about the product. We may understand requirements differently. And if we make that selection too early, you kind of have made your own destiny and you're pigeonholing yourself into one solution, which these solutions change and update so frequently. The goal is that each module of the RAG, each letter, can operate agnostically of others. So if we make the selection that Chat GPT 4.0 is the best model, and then, you know, Lambda comes out and gets a new model and then we want to use that as a model instead, we can just change the API endpoints and we're up and running very quickly. That's the best way to build AI systems that scale.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of what you said, I know that what you're saying is healthcare or other financial systems, maybe more number crunching, but sales, this is relatively, is it straightforward? Because, it's more of, okay, let's say lead data or some reports, scanning some reports. Is it basic processing of information?
The processing
I
of
know.
information is a lot simpler because it's concepts that most large language models understand. If you ask a large language model to write you a compelling story, it understands because of how it's been trained what is compelling and what is not. That's very transferable over into the sales side of things. Write a compelling argument for why you choose my solution as opposed to a different solution. It understands that. But if I ask a large language model, hey, here's a treatment documentation for X person, figure out what their ailment is, it's only going to have very limited context up to 2023. It doesn't have access to privately held medical information, so it's much likelier to miss things. So that's really what it comes down to is the sales doesn't change as fast as medical and financial things do. So we're okay. The way that I do sales now in terms of high level concepts has not changed in the past 125 years. So there's plenty of context for it to work off of.
Okay, absolutely. So even if it is obviously proprietary data plus externally published up-to-date market information and leads, ultimately, if it comes down to, okay, from this, what do you infer? Give me like a deal negotiation proposal, give me
Yep.
contract, negotiate it. uh, pricing. I think, yeah, I get it. Because the framework is well established for a long time, you're saying that it will be much easier to build and to train. Offline training, believe will be ideal is what I've heard, but we will see. Overall, not too complex, not a too complex
Not for
implementation,
the
like
MVP, I don't believe. But what I'll
medium
say,
complexity.
what I'll say for this is give me some time. Let me sync up with my technical team. Obviously, this call was recorded. Let me send it over, just get some initial feedback from them. Maybe a ballpark estimate would help us in understanding what an MVP like this would cost, both in terms of timeline and in terms of development cost. I'll also send you over a portfolio. I think that we have a lot of really cool projects on there that you'd be interested in to see. Um, and I'm happy to, again, answer any questions that come up outside of that.
Yeah, and I think you might have picked it up already that I kind of uh, mentioned that this could be, bot working in other contexts also. Like, for example, the bot could be US specific, or he's more like a customizable companion for England or for India. So I mean, I know that the only it's not exactly cosmetic, but it boils down to just creating that what appearance, and the modeling of the whoever the bot is, the assistant is, and linking it to your APIs to actually send the call through the prompt.
It's a
That's all, right?
modular system, so it'll be a lot easier to adapt as needed.
Yeah.
That's why I propose we build it this way.
Okay, so sounds good. I think so sounds like you have what you need from me to do your rough cut estimates, like you said.
Hmm.
So I will look forward to further details or communication from you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful connecting with you, and I learned a few good things. Thank you.
Good.
I appreciate that.
All right. You have a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one. Cheers. Bye. Take
Bye.
care.